Close your eyes for a moment. Not literally, of course, because you need to watch this. But imagine closing them. Imagine stepping outside of this exact second, this precise heartbeat, this singular breath you just took. Now ask yourself something that might keep you awake tonight. Where did that breath go? The one you took 3 seconds ago. Is it still happening somewhere? Is there a version of you, frozen in amber, still inhaling that exact pocket of air in some corner of reality you cannot touch? Or did it vanish completely, erased from existence as if it never happened at all? You have lived your entire life assuming something so fundamental, so obvious, that you have never once questioned it. You assume that the past is gone, dead, buried under the weight of every moment that followed it. You assume the future does not exist yet, that it waits for you somewhere up ahead, formless and unwritten, like a book with blank pages. You assume that this moment, this single flickering instant, is the only thing that truly exists, the only thing that is real. What if you are wrong about all of it? What if everything you have ever believed about time is a beautiful, elaborate illusion? What if the past is not gone? What if the future already exists? What if every moment you have ever lived, every moment you will ever live, is happening right now? All at once, simultaneously, eternally. This is not science fiction. This is not a thought experiment designed to make you feel small. This is what some of the greatest physicists who have ever lived believe about the nature of reality. And by the end of this journey, you will understand why they believe it. More importantly, you will have to decide what you believe, because the answer changes everything about how you see your life, your choices, your death, and the very fabric of existence itself. Let us begin with something uncomfortable, something your brain will resist. Right now, as you read these words or hear this voice, you feel present. You feel anchored in the now. Your senses tell you that this moment is special, that it is the cutting edge of reality, the only moment that matters, the only moment that is happening. Everything before this is memory. Everything after this is imagination. You stand on a knife's edge called the present, and it feels like the most natural thing in the universe. But here is the problem. Physics does not care how you feel. The equations that describe our universe, the mathematics that govern everything from the spin of galaxies to the vibration of atoms, these equations contain no special moment called now. They do not distinguish between past, present, and future. To the laws of physics, every moment in time is equally real. Every moment is equally valid. Every moment simply exists. Think about that. Really think about it. When you remember your 10th birthday, that memory feels like a ghost, a faded photograph, an echo of something that once was but no longer is. But according to the mathematics of reality, according to the equations written by Einstein and refined by generations of brilliant minds, your 10th birthday is not a ghost. It is not faded. It is not gone. It is still there. It is still happening, right now. The version of you blowing out those candles, making that wish, tasting that cake, that version of you is just as real as the version of you experiencing this moment. The only difference is which moment you are conscious of. Pause and let that settle. Because this is not a metaphor. This is not poetry dressed up as science. This is a genuine description of how reality might work. And if it is true, It means something staggering about who you are and what your life actually is. But we are getting ahead of ourselves. There is a question we need to ask first, a question that seems so simple, so basic, that it almost feels absurd to ask out loud. Yet it is the question that has haunted philosophers for thousands of years and continues to puzzle physicists today. What is time? You know what time feels like. You experience it every single moment of your existence. It flows, it passes, it ticks and tocks and marches forward like an unstoppable river. You were young once. Now you are older. One day you will be older still. Time moves you through your life whether you want it to or not. This is so obvious, so universally experienced, that it hardly seems worth stating. But feeling something and understanding something are very different things. Try to define time without using any references to time itself. Try to explain what it actually is without saying words like before, after, then, when, duration, or moment. You will find, as countless geniuses have found before you, that time slips through your fingers like smoke. The more you try to grasp it, the less you seem to hold. St. Augustine, writing over 1600 years ago, captured this paradox perfectly. He said that if no one asks him what time is, he knows. But if someone asks him to explain it, he does not know. This was not false modesty from a confused man. This was one of history's greatest minds, admitting that time is perhaps the strangest thing in existence. We are immersed in it. We are made of it. We cannot escape it. And yet we cannot explain what it actually is. Modern physics has not solved this mystery. It has made it deeper. It has revealed that time is far stranger than Augustine could have imagined. Far stranger than you have ever imagined. And that strangeness begins with a man who changed everything we thought we knew about the universe. Albert Einstein was not trying to revolutionize our understanding of time. He was trying to solve a puzzle about light. But in solving that puzzle, he accidentally detonated a bomb beneath the foundations of reality. He discovered that time is not what we think it is, that the past and future are not what we think they are, that the present itself might be nothing more than a persistent illusion. You have probably heard of Einstein's theory of relativity. Perhaps you know that it says something about time and space being connected. Perhaps you have heard that time slows down when you move fast, or when you are near something massive like a black hole. These facts have become cultural touchstones, pieces of trivia that people nod along to without truly absorbing what they mean. So let us absorb what they mean. Imagine two people, two friends, standing in a field. They are having a conversation. They agree that it is 3 o'clock in the afternoon. They check their watches. The watches match. The time is the same for both of them. This seems obvious. This seems like the natural order of things. Time is universal. A second is a second is a second. 3 o'clock is 3 o'clock everywhere in the universe. Except it is not. If one of those friends climbs into a spaceship and rockets away at incredible speed, something strange happens. Time begins to flow differently for them. Their clock ticks slower than the clock of their friend still standing in that field. When they return from their journey, they will have aged less. They will have experienced less time. For them, fewer seconds will have passed, fewer heartbeats, fewer thoughts. This is not a theory. This is not a guess. This has been measured with atomic clocks on airplanes. It has been verified with satellites orbiting the Earth. It is happening to astronauts on the International Space Station right now. Time is not the same for everyone. Time is personal. Time is relative. But here is where it gets truly strange. Here is where your intuition begins to break. If time flows at different rates for different observers, then something troubling happens to our idea of the present moment. Think about it carefully. If two people can disagree about how much time has passed, then they can disagree about what is happening now. They can disagree about which events are in the present and which events are in the future. There is no universal now. There is no cosmic clock ticking away that everyone agrees on. The moment you call the present is your present. Someone else, moving differently through space, has a different present. There now includes events that you would call the future. Your now includes events that they would call the past. This sounds impossible. It sounds like word games. It sounds like the kind of thing that only matters to physicists with chalkboards and too much time on their hands. But it is not a game. It is a crack in the foundation of everything you believe about reality. Because if there is no universal present, if the moment called now is different for every observer, then the distinction between past, present, and future becomes meaningless. It becomes a matter of perspective, not reality. And if the distinction between past, present, and future is just perspective, then perhaps they all exist equally. Perhaps they all exist simultaneously. Perhaps every moment is always happening, frozen in the crystalline structure of space-time like a fly in amber, and consciousness is simply moving through it, experiencing one slice at a time. This is the block universe theory. This is the idea that time is not a flowing river, but a frozen landscape. That your past is not gone, and your future already exists. That you are not traveling through time so much as time is a direction you are extended in, like height or width or depth. You exist in 4 dimensions, not 3. You are not a 3-dimensional creature moving through time. You are a 4-dimensional object, stretched across time from your birth to your death. And the you that is experiencing this moment is simply one cross-section of that eternal shape. Think of it this way. Imagine a loaf of bread, a long French baguette. Now imagine slicing that bread. Each slice reveals a different cross-section of the loaf. Each slice looks different. But all the slices exist. They are all part of the same bread. They are all equally real. The bread is not creating new slices as you cut it. The slices were always there, waiting to be revealed. You are the bread. Your life is the bread. Each moment of your existence is a slice, and consciousness is the knife that reveals each cross-section in turn. But the entire loaf exists. It has always existed. It will always exist. Your 10th birthday, your first kiss, your death. All of them are there, embedded in the structure of space-time, waiting for consciousness to illuminate them. This is what Einstein believed. This is what he meant when he wrote, in a letter of condolence to the family of a friend who had died, that the distinction between past, present, and future is only a stubbornly persistent illusion. He was not being poetic. He was not offering empty comfort. He was stating what he believed to be literally true about the nature of reality. Your friend is not gone, Einstein was saying. Your friend still exists. The moments of his life are still there, still real, still happening in their own slice of the cosmic bread. Death is not an ending. It is a boundary. It is the edge of the four-dimensional shape that is a human life. And just like the edge of your body is not the ending of you, the edge of your life in time is not the ending of you. You are eternal. Not in the religious sense, not in the sense of an afterlife or a soul that persists beyond the grave. Eternal in the physical sense. Eternal in the sense that every moment of your existence is permanently inscribed in the fabric of space-time. Nothing that has ever happened can unhappen. Nothing that exists can cease to exist. The universe is a block of frozen time, and you are a thread woven through it. But wait, something about this should bother you. Something about this should make you push back, make you resist, make you demand answers that do not feel so alien to your lived experience. Because you feel time passing, you remember the past and anticipate the future. You make choices that seem to matter. If the future already exists, if it is already written in the block of space-time, then how can you have free will? How can your decisions mean anything? How can you be anything other than a passenger, a helpless observer, watching a movie that was already filmed? This is the question that haunts the block universe. This is the shadow at the edge of Einstein's revelation. And it is a shadow we will walk into together. Because the answer, or the lack of one, will challenge everything you think you know about yourself. But there is something else we need to explore first. Something even stranger. Something that suggests the block universe might not be the complete picture. Something that whispers there might be more going on with time than even Einstein imagined. You need to understand something about the universe before we go any further. Everything you think you know about how reality works is based on a lie. Not a malicious lie. An evolutionary one. A necessary one. Your brain has been lying to you since the moment you were born, constructing a version of reality that feels intuitive, manageable, survivable. But that version and the actual universe operating beneath it are so fundamentally different that when you truly grasp the gap between them, something shifts inside you permanently. Let's start with something simple, something you do every day without thinking. You reach out and grab your coffee cup. Simple action. Your hand moves through space, wraps around the cup, lifts it to your mouth. You experience this as happening now, in the present moment, in real time. But here's what's actually occurring, and this is where the foundation starts to crack. Light bounces off the cup and travels to your eye at 186,000 miles per second. Fast, but not instantaneous. That light hits your retina, triggers a chemical reaction, generates an electrical impulse that travels along your optic nerve to your visual cortex at the back of your brain. That signal gets processed, interpreted, combined with signals from other senses, all happening at different speeds because sound travels slower than light. Touch signals travel through different neural pathways. Your brain then constructs a unified experience, a seamless moment of now, where you see the cup, feel the cup, hear the subtle sound of ceramic on wood, all at once. But it's not at once. It's a constructed synchronization. Your brain is taking inputs that arrived at different times, that describe events that happened at different times, and stitching them together into a single coherent moment. The experience of now is already a reconstruction, already a story your brain tells you about the recent past, packaged and delivered as the present. Scientists have measured this delay, from the moment light hits your eye to the moment you become consciously aware of seeing something, About 80 milliseconds pass. 80 thousandths of a second. It doesn't sound like much, but it means you've never seen the present. You've only ever seen the past, disguised as now. You are living permanently in the past, experiencing a delayed broadcast of reality, convinced you're watching it live. Think about what this means when you're having a conversation with someone. You're not responding to what they're saying now. You're responding to what they said 80 milliseconds ago. Every interaction you've ever had, every moment you've ever experienced has been a reconstruction, a memory, a ghost of the actual event. Now, let's make this worse. Let's talk about what's really happening when you look up at the night sky. You see stars, thousands of them on a clear night away from city lights. They're beautiful, eternal, present. Except they're not. They're not there. Not in any meaningful sense of there that relates to your now. The light from the nearest star beyond our sun, Proxima Centauri, takes 4 years to reach Earth. When you look at that star, you're seeing it as it was 4 years ago. If it exploded 3 years ago, you wouldn't know yet. You'd still see it twinkling peacefully in the night sky. The star you're seeing doesn't exist in your present. It exists in your past. You're literally looking backward in time. And it gets more extreme. Most of the stars you can see with the naked eye are dozens or hundreds of light years away. That bright star in Orion's shoulder, Betelgeuse, is about 550 light years away. When you look at it, you're seeing light that left that star in the year 1475. Columbus hadn't reached the Americas yet. The Renaissance was just beginning. That's when the photons you're seeing right now began their journey across space. So when you look up at the night sky, you're not seeing the universe as it is. You're seeing a historical archive, a museum of different moments from the past, all presented to you simultaneously. Each star is showing you a different era, a different when, all mixed together in what you perceive as a single view of now. But here's where it gets truly strange, where the comfortable illusion of time starts to completely dissolve. According to Einstein's special relativity, there is no universal now. There is no cosmic present moment that extends across the universe. The concept of now only makes sense locally, in your immediate vicinity. What's happening now on a planet orbiting a star 1,000 light years away is literally undefined. The question doesn't even make sense without specifying a frame of reference, a state of motion. Let me show you why this breaks everything you think you know about time. Imagine you're standing still on Earth, looking out at the universe. From your perspective, there's a set of events happening right now on that distant planet. We'll call this your present moment, your slice of now through space-time. But if your friend is moving relative to you, even slowly, even just walking past you, their now, their slice through space-time, is tilted differently. From their perspective, a different set of events is happening on that distant planet right now. This isn't a small effect at cosmic distances. If you start moving at high speed toward a distant galaxy, the events that are happening now in that galaxy, from your new perspective, could be millions of years different from what was happening there now when you were standing still. By changing your motion, you changed what now means for distant parts of the universe. So whose now is real? When someone asks, What's happening right now on a planet 1,000 light years away? The answer depends on who's asking and how they're moving. There is no objective answer. The present moment, the thing that feels more real than anything else in your experience, is relative, subjective, observer-dependent. This is what Einstein's equations tell us. This is what every experiment testing relativity has confirmed. Time is not a river flowing universally forward, carrying all of us along at the same rate. Time is more like a landscape, a dimension we move through, and different observers move through it differently, experience it differently, have different perspectives on what exists now. Most physicists, when confronted with this reality, adopt what's called the block universe view. If there's no universal present, if now is relative and observer-dependent, then the most sensible interpretation is that all moments in time exist equally. Past, present, and future are all equally real, all part of a four-dimensional structure called spacetime, where time is just another dimension like the three spatial dimensions you're familiar with. In this view, you are not a three-dimensional object moving through time. You are a four-dimensional object, extended in time from your birth to your death, existing all at once. You just experience yourself sequentially, moment by moment, because that's how consciousness works. Moving along the time dimension of this four-dimensional structure. Imagine a movie film, the old-fashioned kind with actual frames on a strip of celluloid. Each frame exists simultaneously. The entire movie exists all at once as a physical object. But when you watch it, you experience it frame by frame, moment by moment, with the illusion of motion, of change, of time flowing. The flow is in your experience, not in the film itself. The block universe says your life is like that film. All the moments exist simultaneously in the structure of space-time, but you experience them sequentially, creating the powerful illusion that only the present is real, that the past is gone, that the future doesn't exist yet. Now I want you to sit with this for a moment. Really let it sink in. If the block universe is correct, if this is how reality actually works, then everything you've experienced, everything you will experience, exists right now. Your childhood exists, your death exists, every triumph, every failure, every moment of joy and suffering, all existing simultaneously in this four-dimensional structure. But you're probably pushing back against this. It feels wrong. Surely the past is different from the future. You remember the past. You have evidence of it. Photographs, records, memories encoded in your brain. But the future? You can't remember it. You can't see it. It hasn't happened yet. How can something that hasn't happened exist? This intuition is powerful, but it's based on that same evolutionary interface, that same survival-focused representation of reality your brain constructs. Let's examine why the past seems different from the future, and whether that difference is fundamental to reality or just fundamental to your experience. The key lies in a concept called entropy. You've probably heard the word. It's often described as disorder or chaos, but that's not quite right. Entropy is really about the number of ways something can be arranged. A high entropy state is one where there are many possible arrangements that would look basically the same. A low entropy state is one where only a few specific arrangements would work. Think about your bedroom. When it's clean, everything in its place. That's low entropy. There's basically one arrangement, or a small number of arrangements, that counts as clean. But when it's messy, that's high entropy. There are millions of ways to scatter clothes and books and random objects around the room that would all count as equally messy. The messy state has higher entropy because it's more probable, more generic, less specific. Now here's the crucial thing. The universe naturally moves from low entropy states to high entropy states. This isn't a law exactly. It's a statistical inevitability. Systems tend toward configurations that have more possible arrangements simply because there are more ways to be in those configurations. An egg held above the floor is in a low entropy state. There's one very specific arrangement of molecules that makes an intact egg. You drop it, it breaks, and now it's in a high entropy state. There are countless arrangements of scrambled egg molecules and shell fragments that all count as broken. The egg naturally moves from low to high entropy. You never see a broken egg spontaneously reassemble itself, not because it's physically impossible, just because it's so statistically unlikely that it effectively never happens. This natural progression from low to high entropy is what creates the arrow of time. It's why eggs break but don't unbreak. Why you age but don't unage. Why you remember the past but not the future. Entropy increase gives time its direction, its flow, its irreversibility. But here's the mystery that should haunt you. The fundamental laws of physics don't prefer one direction of time over the other. Newton's laws work the same forward and backward. Einstein's equations of relativity work the same forward and backward. Even quantum mechanics is mostly time-symmetric. If you filmed fundamental particle interactions and played the video backward, you'd see processes that could actually happen. The universe at its deepest level doesn't distinguish between forward and backward in time. So where does the arrow come from? Why does time have a direction if the laws governing reality are indifferent to that direction? The answer seems to be initial conditions. The universe started in an incredibly low entropy state at the Big Bang, and it's been increasing in entropy ever since. But nobody knows why the universe started in such a low entropy state. There's no law requiring it. It seems like a cosmic accident, a boundary condition, something that was just true about the beginning, without any deeper explanation. And this is what creates your experience of time flowing. You exist in a universe that happened to start in low entropy and is moving toward high entropy. And your consciousness, your memory, your entire existence is built on processes that only work in the direction of entropy increase. Your memories form because of entropy increase. Your aging happens because of entropy increase. Your sense that time flows from past to future is a consequence of entropy increase. But if entropy is what creates the arrow of time, and if entropy is just a statistical tendency rather than a fundamental law, does that mean the arrow of time is not fundamental? Does that mean in some deep sense the past and future really are symmetric, equally real, equally existent? This is where physicists disagree, sometimes passionately. Some argue that the arrow of time is just in our heads, a consequence of our limited perspective in a universe where all moments exist equally. Others argue that entropy and the arrow of time are fundamental features of reality, that the past and future really are different, that only the present exists, and talk of the block universe is mathematical abstraction mistaken for physical reality. Think about causation. You experience causes coming before effects. You flip a light switch, then the light turns on. The flipping causes the lighting. This seems fundamental. But at the level of fundamental physics, causation isn't really there. There are just patterns of correlation, configurations of matter and energy evolving according to equations that work equally well backward and forward. When you flip a light switch, you're creating a low entropy state in the electrical circuit that then relaxes to a higher entropy state, releasing energy as light. You could, in principle, reverse this process. The equations allow it. But it would require setting up an incredibly specific, low-entropy configuration that's effectively impossible to achieve. The asymmetry isn't in the laws. It's in the probability, the statistics, the entropy. Your entire life, every choice you make, every thought you think, operates in the direction of entropy increase. Your brain-forming memories requires entropy increase. Your neurons firing requires entropy increase. Consciousness itself might be fundamentally tied to the arrow of time, which means you can't even imagine what it would be like to experience time without an arrow. To exist in a universe where past and future aren't distinguished. But the universe itself might not make that distinction. At the level of the block universe, at the level of space-time as a four-dimensional structure, there is no arrow. There's just the structure, eternal and unchanging, containing all events at all times. The arrow exists in your journey through that structure, in your necessarily one-directional experience of it. Let me give you an analogy. Imagine a river flowing downstream. You're a boat on that river, moving with the current. From your perspective, there's a clear direction. Upstream is where you came from. Downstream is where you're going. The flow seems fundamental, essential, real. But now imagine looking at the river from space, seeing the entire thing at once, from source to sea. From that perspective, there's no flow. There's just a static geographical feature, a depression in the landscape filled with water. The flow exists only from the perspective of something moving along the river, experiencing it sequentially. Time might be the same. From inside time, from your position as a conscious being experiencing moments sequentially, time flows. The arrow is real. Past and future are fundamentally different. But from outside time, from the perspective of the universe itself, there's just space-time, a four-dimensional structure, static and eternal, with no preferred direction, no flow, no distinction between past and future. So which perspective is correct? Are you the boat experiencing the flow, or are you simultaneously the entire river, existing all at once, with only a part of you experiencing sequential moments? Is the flow of time real, or is it the most elaborate illusion consciousness has ever created? Here's what should truly disturb you. You can't tell the difference from inside the experience. If you're living in a block universe, where all moments exist simultaneously, but consciousness only experiences them sequentially, it would feel exactly like living in a universe where only the present exists and time genuinely flows. Your experience would be identical. There's no experiment you can do, no observation you can make from your limited perspective that would definitively tell you which is true. You might think relativity settles it, that the relativity of simultaneity proves the block universe. But even that's not certain. Some interpretations of quantum mechanics suggests that the future genuinely doesn't exist, that it's created moment by moment as quantum possibilities collapse into definite outcomes. In these interpretations, the block universe is wrong. The future is genuinely open, and time really does flow. The truth is, we don't know. This is one of the deepest open questions in all of physics. Do the past and future exist? Is time's flow real or illusory? Is free will possible, or is everything predetermined by a four-dimensional structure that already contains your entire life? These aren't just philosophical questions. They're empirical questions about the nature of reality. But they're questions we don't yet have the tools or understanding to definitively answer. What we do know is this: your intuition, your direct experience, cannot be trusted. The universe is stranger than your brain evolved to comprehend. Time is not what it seems, and somewhere in the gap between your experience and reality's true nature lies a mystery so profound that solving it might require us to completely reimagine what it means to exist. The paradox starts with a simple observation that should terrify you. Right now, as you exist in this moment, there are versions of you scattered across the structure of space-time. The you from 5 minutes ago still exists in the block universe, frozen in that moment, reading an earlier part of this script. The you from 5 years ago exists, living that day, experiencing those emotions, completely unaware of this present moment. And the you from 5 minutes in the future exists too, already knowing what comes next in these words, already having experienced what you're about to experience. But here's the problem. If all these versions of you exist simultaneously, which one is really you? When you say I, which temporal slice of your four-dimensional self are you referring to? The answer seems obvious. You're the one experiencing this moment right now. But that's just your current temporal position, asserting its own existence. The you from yesterday would have said the same thing yesterday. The you from tomorrow will say the same thing tomorrow. Every moment of you thinks it's the real you, the current you, the present you. So are you all of them? Are you a four-dimensional being, stretched across time, with each moment being equally you? Or are you just this moment, this thin slice of awareness, somehow more real than all the other moments, even though physics gives you no reason to think so? Imagine holding a map of your entire life. Not a metaphorical map, but an actual physical representation of every moment you've ever experienced and will experience, laid out in 4 dimensions. You could see yourself being born, learning to walk, your first day of school, your first heartbreak. This exact moment reading these words, and every moment stretching forward to your death. All of it visible at once, all of it equally present in the structure. Now point to yourself on that map. Where are you? You want to point to the moment you're experiencing right now, but that's arbitrary. That's just your current position in the structure. It's like pointing to your current location on a map of the world and saying, "This is where space is." No, that's just where you are in space. Space extends in all directions. Similarly, you extend in all temporal directions. Every point on your life map is you. This is what the block universe implies, and it creates immediate paradoxes. If you exist at all your moments simultaneously, how do you experience time passing? How do you experience change? Change requires one thing to become another thing, but in the block universe, both things exist simultaneously. You don't change from young to old. You exist as young and old, and every age in between, all at once. The experience of change, of becoming, must be an illusion created by consciousness moving through the static structure. But what is consciousness in this picture? Is it located at a specific point in your four-dimensional self, creating a moving now that travels from birth to death? Or does consciousness itself exist across your entire timeline, with each moment having its own isolated awareness, disconnected from the others, each thinking it's the present? Think about this carefully. Right now, you have memories of the past. But in the block universe, those past moments still exist, complete with their own consciousness, their own awareness. The you from yesterday isn't just a memory in your current mind. That you still exists, still conscious, still experiencing that day, forever. So there's not one continuous stream of consciousness moving through time. There are countless separate moments of consciousness, each isolated in its own temporal position, each with its own memories of earlier positions, each thinking it's the present, the now, the real you. You are not one consciousness experiencing time. You are thousands or millions of separate consciousnesses, each existing at a different moment, each thinking it's continuous with the others because of memory, but actually isolated, unable to communicate, unable to affect each other because they exist at different temporal locations in the unchanging structure of space-time. Does that make you feel alone? It should, because in the block universe, you've never actually persisted through time. You've never actually experienced duration. You're just one isolated moment of awareness right now, with false memories of earlier moments that aren't actually connected to you except by the illusion of continuity. The you from 1 second ago is as distant and unreachable as a person on the other side of the galaxy. You can't talk to them, can't touch them, can't affect them. They're gone, frozen in their own temporal position, experiencing their own isolated moment of now. But wait, because it gets stranger. If the block universe is real, if your entire life exists as a four-dimensional structure, then that structure must have a specific shape, specific properties, specific events, at specific coordinates. Your death is located at specific space-time coordinates. The moment you're experiencing right now has specific coordinates. Everything is fixed, determined, unchangeable. This seems to eliminate free will completely. If your future already exists, carved into the geometry of space-time, then you can't change it. You think you're making choices, but you're just becoming aware of choices that were always there, always made, always part of the structure. Every decision you've ever made was predetermined by the shape of your four-dimensional self. But here's the paradox. You don't feel predetermined. You feel like you're choosing. Right now, you could stop reading this. You could close your eyes, stand up, walk away. That feels like a real choice, a genuine possibility. How can something feel so much like freedom while being completely determined? Some philosophers argue that free will and determinism aren't actually incompatible. They say free will doesn't require that you could have done otherwise. It only requires that your actions come from your own desires, your own reasoning, your own character. Even in a block universe where your choices are fixed, they're still your choices, still caused by your mental states, still free in the only sense that matters. But this feels like wordplay. If the future is already written, If there's only one possible timeline, then in what meaningful sense are you free? You're like an actor performing a script, going through the motions, but the ending was decided before you started. Every word was written in advance. You're not creating anything. You're just discovering what was always there. Unless the block universe isn't the only option. Unless quantum mechanics changes everything. And this is where the mystery deepens, where the paradoxes multiply, where reality fractures into possibilities that make the block universe seem simple by comparison. In classical physics, the physics of Newton and even Einstein, the universe evolves deterministically. Given the state of everything at one moment, you can in principle calculate the state of everything at any other moment, past or future. The equations are reversible, deterministic, mechanical. The block universe makes sense in this context. All moments exist, all determined by the laws of physics, all fixed and unchangeable. But quantum mechanics broke this picture. At the quantum level, reality is fundamentally probabilistic. You can't predict exactly what will happen. You can only calculate probabilities. When a quantum particle encounters a barrier, it might tunnel through or bounce back. You can calculate the odds, but you can't say for certain what will happen. The outcome seems genuinely random, genuinely undetermined, until it actually occurs. This randomness, this fundamental indeterminacy, seems to open up the future. If quantum events are truly random, not predetermined, then the future doesn't exist yet. It's being created moment by moment as quantum probabilities collapse into definite outcomes. The block universe must be wrong. Only the present exists. The past is gone. The future is open, undecided, not yet real. But the physics of quantum mechanics is far stranger than simple randomness. And when you really look at it, it makes the question of whether past and future exist even more confusing, even more paradoxical. The famous double-slit experiment shows this perfectly. Send a single photon, a single particle of light, toward a barrier with two slits. Don't measure which slit it goes through. Just let it pass and hit a screen behind the barrier. Where does it hit? You'd expect it to go through one slit or the other and hit the screen at one of two locations. But that's not what happens. Instead, over many photons, you get an interference pattern, a pattern that only makes sense if each photon somehow went through both slits simultaneously, interfered with itself, and then hit the screen. But if you measure which slit the photon goes through, the interference pattern disappears. Measure it, and it goes through one slit, behaves like a particle. Don't measure it, and it goes through both slits, behaves like a wave. The act of measurement changes what happens. Or maybe it changes what happened. Because some versions of quantum mechanics suggest that until you measure, the photon doesn't have a definite past. It didn't go through one slit or the other. It existed in a superposition, a combination of both possibilities, until measurement forced it to choose. Think about what this means for the reality of the past. You remember your past. You think it's fixed, definite, real. But quantum mechanics suggests that some aspects of the past might not be determined until you make measurements in the present. The past might be retroactively created by present observations. There's an experiment called the delayed choice quantum eraser that demonstrates this in a way that should make your head spin. Without getting into the technical details, it's an experiment where you can choose, after a photon has already passed through a double-slit apparatus, whether to measure which slit it went through. You'd think this wouldn't matter. The photon already went through one slit or both. That's in the past. It's done. But the experiment shows that your later choice affects whether the photon shows interference or not. Your present choice seems to retroactively determine the photon's past behavior. This doesn't violate causality. You can't use it to send messages to the past. But it suggests that the past, at least at the quantum level, isn't fully determined until the present makes it so. The past might be as open, as undecided, as the future. Both might be created by the present moment, the only moment that's truly real. But then, what is the present moment in quantum mechanics? Is it when the photon passes through the slits? When it hits the screen? When a detector registers it? When a human observer looks at the detector? Where does quantum possibility collapse into definite reality? This is called the measurement problem, and it's been unsolved for nearly a century. Different interpretations of quantum mechanics give different answers, and these answers have profound implications for whether the past and future exist. The Copenhagen interpretation, the traditional view, says that quantum systems exist in superpositions of all possibilities until measurement collapses them into one definite outcome. But it doesn't really explain what counts as measurement or why measurement has this special power. It treats the present moment of measurement as special, as the moment when possibility becomes reality. This suggests that only the present is real, that past and future are somehow less substantial, less definite. But there's another interpretation, one that's gained serious traction among physicists, one that's so strange it makes the block universe seem conservative. It's called the many worlds interpretation, and it says that quantum measurements don't collapse possibilities. Instead, all possibilities happen. The universe splits into multiple branches, one for each possible outcome, and you split with it. When that photon reaches the double-slit apparatus, the universe branches. In one branch, it goes through the left slit. In another branch, it goes through the right slit. Both universes are equally real. Both versions of you are equally real. And this branching happens constantly, trillions upon trillions of times per second, for every quantum event in the universe. In this interpretation, there isn't one past or one future. There's a vast, ever-branching tree of universes, all existing simultaneously, all equally real. The you experiencing this moment has countless versions scattered across these branches, versions where you made different choices, lived different lives, exist in different worlds. They're all real, all experiencing their own present moments, all thinking they're the real you. And here's what should keep you awake at night. You have no way of knowing which branch you're in. You have no way of knowing how many times you've branched. You feel like you're one continuous person with one definite past, but you might be just one of countless versions, each with slightly different pasts that branched off from a common origin. Did you actually eat breakfast this morning? In your memory, yes. But in the many worlds interpretation, there's a version of you who didn't, who skipped breakfast, who's now in a different branch of reality, equally convinced of their own past. Both pasts are real. Both happened. Both exist in the vast multiverse structure. So does the past exist? Which past? There are countless pasts, all branching backward from this moment, all equally real in different branches of the multiverse. And there are countless futures, all branching forward, all determined by quantum events that haven't happened yet, but will split reality into more and more branches. You're not one person moving through time. You're a tree, constantly branching, spreading across the multiverse, with each branch being a complete person, complete with memories and consciousness, and the certainty that they're the real you. And if many worlds is correct, if this constant branching is really happening, then free will returns in the strangest possible way. You can't choose which branch you end up in. That's determined by quantum randomness. But across all branches, all versions of you make all possible choices. You choose to keep reading this and stop reading this. Both happen. Both are real. Both are you. Imagine standing at a fork in a road. In a normal universe, you choose one path. The other path, the life you didn't live, doesn't exist. It's merely possible, potential, unreal. But in the many worlds interpretation, you walk down both paths. You split. Both versions of you continue, both certain they made a choice, both unaware of the other, both real. Every decision point in your life was a branching point. Every quantum event in your brain was a branching point. You are not one person. You are a vast multitude, spread across innumerable branches of reality, each living a slightly or radically different life, each thinking they're the only one, the real one. Does that make your life meaningless? Are you less real because there are countless copies of you? Or does it mean you're exploring every possibility, living every potential life, exhausting the space of what you could be across the branches of the multiverse? Think about regret. You made a choice years ago that you regret. You wonder what would have happened if you'd chosen differently. In a single universe scenario, that other choice is gone, forever lost, merely imaginary. But in many worlds, you did make that other choice. A version of you lived that other life. They're out there, in another branch, real and alive, experiencing the consequences of the path you didn't take. Does that comfort you or disturb you? You can't reach them. You can't communicate with them. They exist in a different branch of reality, forever inaccessible. But they're real. They're you, living a life you'll never know, making choices you'll never see the consequences of. All equally real in the grand structure of the multiverse. Now let me show you how this connects back to the block universe and makes the whole question even more impossible to answer. If many worlds is correct, if the universe is constantly branching into multiple futures, does the block universe still make sense? Some physicists argue yes. They say the block universe isn't one four-dimensional structure. It's a branching structure, a tree of four-dimensional space-times, all existing in a higher dimensional space. Each branch is a complete block universe, containing all moments from its Big Bang to its heat death. And you exist across many of these branches, with different versions of your four-dimensional self in each one. Others argue that many worlds and the block universe are incompatible. If the future is constantly branching, constantly being created by quantum events, then it can't already exist in a fixed structure. The future is genuinely open, genuinely undetermined, even if all quantum possibilities eventually manifest in different branches? The honest answer is, nobody knows. We don't even know if many worlds is correct. It might be that only one outcome of each quantum measurement is real, that the universe doesn't branch, that quantum collapse is a real physical process that creates one definite present moment. But we don't know what causes collapse, or when it happens, or why. Or it might be that quantum mechanics itself is wrong, or incomplete, that there's a deeper theory underneath it, where determinism returns and the block universe makes sense again. There are interpretations like pilot wave theory that suggest this, where quantum randomness is actually deterministic if you include hidden variables we can't directly observe. Every answer raises new questions. Every solution creates new paradoxes. The more deeply physics probes the nature of time and reality, the more mysterious they become. Let me give you another paradox, one that comes from general relativity, Einstein's theory of gravity and spacetime. According to general relativity, gravity is not a force, it's the curvature of spacetime itself. Massive objects like stars and planets bend spacetime around them, and other objects moving through that curved spacetime follow curved paths, which we interpret as gravitational attraction. This curvature of spacetime has a strange consequence for time. Time runs at different rates in different gravitational fields. The stronger the gravity, the slower time passes. This isn't a small effect. It's measurable, real, and essential for technologies like GPS to work correctly. If you stood at the surface of a black hole at the event horizon, time for you would slow to a stop relative to someone far away from the black hole. From the distant observer's perspective, you'd freeze, asymptotically approaching the horizon but never quite crossing it. Your clock stopped, your time ended. But from your perspective, you'd fall right through in finite time, experiencing nothing special at the horizon itself. So what's real? Does time stop at the horizon, or doesn't it? The answer depends on your reference frame, your position in space-time. There's no objective answer. Time is relative, observer-dependent, fundamentally tied to your path through space-time. This creates impossible questions about simultaneity and existence. Imagine you're falling into a black hole, and I'm watching from far away. From my perspective, you never quite reach the horizon. You freeze there, time stopped, forever. From your perspective, you cross the horizon and continue falling toward the singularity at the center. So do you cross the horizon or not? When? These questions don't have objective answers. The events that are happening now in your reference frame are different from the events happening now in mine. We can't even agree on what exists, what's present, what's real. And it gets worse near very strong gravitational fields or near the Big Bang. General relativity allows for solutions where space-time curves back on itself, where you could potentially travel into your own past. These are called closed time-like curves, and while we don't know if they actually exist in our universe, the equations allow for them. Imagine you could travel backward in time. You could meet your younger self. You could potentially change the past. But if you change the past, you change the events that led to you traveling back in time. The grandfather paradox. If you go back and prevent your grandfather from meeting your grandmother, you're never born. So you never travel back. So you don't prevent them from meeting. So you are born. So you do travel back. And on in an infinite loop of contradiction. How does the universe resolve this? Some physicists suggest that consistency is enforced. You can travel to the past, but you can't change it. Whatever you do in the past, you were always going to do. You can't create a paradox because your time travel was always part of the timeline. The past is fixed, unchangeable, even when you're in it. Others suggest that time travel creates new branches in the multiverse. You travel back, change something, and create a new timeline, a new branch, while the original timeline where you weren't born continues in another branch. Both timelines are real. Both exist. You just moved from one to another. And some suggest that closed time-like curves simply can't exist. That whenever space-time tries to curve back on itself, some quantum effect prevents it. Some principle of physics we don't yet understand that protects causality and prevents paradoxes. But the fact that we have to invoke unknown physics to save causality should tell you how uncertain we are. We don't actually know if the past is fixed. We don't know if time travel is possible. We don't know if paradoxes can occur or if the universe prevents them. Every assumption you make about time, about causality, about existence is uncertain. The foundation is missing. We're building our understanding of reality on ground that might not exist. Let me bring this back to something personal, something you can feel. You have plans for tomorrow. Maybe you're going to work, or seeing a friend, or working on a project. Those plans feel real. You're anticipating them, preparing for them. They feel as real as anything in your life. But do they exist? Does tomorrow exist? In the block universe, yes, absolutely. Tomorrow is already there, already determined, already real. Your future self already exists at those tomorrow coordinates, already experiencing that day. In many worlds, all possible tomorrows exist, branching out from tonight, all real in different branches of the multiverse. But in some interpretations of quantum mechanics, tomorrow doesn't exist at all. It's pure potential, pure possibility, not yet real, waiting to be created by the collapse of quantum probabilities. You can't know which is true. Your experience doesn't tell you. The science doesn't tell you. Tomorrow might be fixed, might be branching into countless versions, or might not exist at all until it becomes today. And the same is true for yesterday. You remember it. You have evidence of it. Photographs, records, physical traces. But in some interpretations, the past is as undetermined as the future, until observations in the present retroactively give it definition. In many worlds, there are countless different yesterdays in different branches, all equally real, all equally your past. The map of your life that I asked you to imagine earlier, it might not be a single map. It might be a vast branching structure, or it might not exist at all outside this present moment. The you that exists now might be the only you that's real, with past and future being mental constructs, stories you tell yourself, shadows of reality rather than reality itself. Every framework we have for understanding time and existence is either incomplete, paradoxical, or untestable. The block universe makes sense of relativity, but seems to eliminate free will and the flow of time. Many worlds make sense of quantum mechanics, but multiplies reality beyond comprehension. Presentism, the view that only the present exists, matches our intuition but can't explain relativity or quantum mechanics. Every option has fatal flaws. Every option requires us to give up something we thought was fundamental. So where does this leave you? You exist. That seems certain. You're experiencing this moment. That seems certain. But what you are, where you are in the structure of reality, whether past and future versions of you exist, whether you're one person or countless versions scattered across branches of the multiverse, all of this is uncertain. Deeply, fundamentally uncertain. The universe is under no obligation to make sense to you. It's under no obligation to match your intuitions or preserve your cherished beliefs about reality. And when you honestly confront what physics tells us, what the experiments show, what the mathematics describes, you're forced to admit that you don't know what time is. You don't know if the past and future exist. You don't even know if you exist in the way you think you do. This isn't nihilism. This is honesty. This is what happens when you take reality seriously, when you follow the evidence wherever it leads, when you refuse to cling to comfortable illusions just because they're comfortable. You are lost in time. We all are. Moving through or existing within a structure we don't understand. Experiencing in ways we can't explain. Conscious for reasons we can't fathom. The mystery isn't solved. It's deepening. Every answer reveals more questions. Every solution exposes more paradoxes. And maybe that's the real truth about time and existence. Maybe the question of whether the past and future exist doesn't have an answer. Maybe reality is genuinely ambiguous at this level, genuinely uncertain, genuinely beyond our current concepts and frameworks. Maybe we need new physics, new mathematics, new ways of thinking about existence itself before we can even properly formulate the question, let alone answer it. Right now, as you process these words, as you feel the weight of uncertainty settling into your chest, you are suspended in a moment that might be eternal or might be the only thing that ever truly exists. And you have to choose what to believe. Not because the evidence is clear, not because science has given you a definitive answer, but because you can't live without choosing. You can't function in a state of pure uncertainty about the nature of your own existence. So let me ask you directly, do you believe you existed yesterday? Not just in memory, not just in photographs and residual effects, but actually existed, were actually conscious, actually experienced those moments. When you close your eyes and remember yesterday, are you accessing something real that still exists somewhere in the fabric of space-time? Or are you creating a fiction, a narrative, a story about a person who no longer exists and maybe never did? Feel the question. Don't answer it intellectually. Feel it in your body. The person you were yesterday. Are they real? Are they still there, frozen in time, experiencing that day forever? Or did they vanish, completely and utterly, leaving only echoes in your current neural patterns? And tomorrow, the person you'll be tomorrow. Are they already there? Already living that day? Already knowing how this all turns out? Are they watching you from the future, the way you might remember watching your past self from the present? Or are they not yet real, not yet existent, pure potential waiting to be actualized by the mysterious process of quantum collapse or consciousness, or whatever creates the present moment? You want certainty. Your mind craves it desperately. Tell me what's real. Tell me what exists. Tell me if I persist through time, or if I'm born and die in each passing moment, a new person every instant, connected to past and future only by the illusion of memory and anticipation. But I can't give you that certainty. Nobody can. We don't have it. The smartest physicists in the world, the people who have dedicated their entire lives to understanding the nature of reality, they're as uncertain as you are. They just have more sophisticated language for their uncertainty, more elaborate mathematical frameworks for describing what they don't understand. Think about death for a moment. Really think about it. Not as an abstract concept, but as something that will happen to you. Specifically to you. The cessation of your consciousness, the end of your experience. You're afraid of it, aren't you? Most people are. It's perhaps the deepest fear woven into human psychology. The fear of non-existence, of the void, of the permanent end of everything you are. But what are you actually afraid of? If the block universe is real, you never die. Every moment of your life exists eternally. The you at every age, forever experiencing those moments, forever conscious, forever alive in your temporal location within spacetime. Death is just an edge, a boundary, no more meaningful than the edge of your body in space. You don't fear not extending infinitely to the left and right. Why fear not extending infinitely into the future? In this view, death isn't the end of you. It's just the end of the temporal dimension of you, the same way your skin is the end of the spatial dimension of you. You continue existing at all your earlier times, conscious and alive, eternally. You never lose anything. You never end. You just have a finite extent in the time dimension. Does that comfort you? Does it ease the fear? Or does it somehow make it worse? Because if every moment exists eternally, then every moment of suffering also exists eternally. Every pain you've experienced, you're still experiencing, frozen in that moment, forever. Every loss, every heartbreak, every moment of despair, still happening, always happening, never ending. The block universe doesn't erase suffering. It makes it eternal. That moment when you felt utterly alone, when you experienced real anguish, when something broke inside you that you thought might never heal, that moment still exists. The you in that moment is still there, still feeling it, still broken, forever. Is eternal existence a blessing or a curse? You can't escape your worst moments. They're permanent features of your four-dimensional self. But you also can't lose your best moments. Every instant of joy, every perfect morning, every time you felt truly connected to someone you loved still exists, still real, still happening, forever. But what if the block universe is wrong? What if only the present exists, and past and future are just mental constructs? Then death is oblivion. Complete, total, permanent non-existence. Everything you are will vanish. Not just your future, but your past. Because if the past doesn't exist, then when you die, all your memories, all your experiences, all the moments that made you who you are, they die with you. They stop existing even as memories, because the mind holding them stops existing. In this view, you are radically impermanent, a brief flicker of consciousness in an uncaring universe. Here for an instant, then gone forever, leaving no trace, no persistence, no continuation. Everything you've experienced, everyone you've loved, all of it disappears when your neurons stop firing. Does that terrify you more or less than eternal existence? There's no right answer. Both are disturbing in different ways. Both challenge everything you thought you knew about what it means to be alive. And if many worlds is correct, if you're constantly splitting into countless branches, then death is even stranger. In some branches, you die. In others, you continue living. From your subjective experience, you might only ever perceive the branches where you survive, creating the illusion of immortality. You could never experience the branches where you die because there's no you to experience them. This is called quantum immortality, and it's a thought experiment that should make you deeply uncomfortable. It suggests that from your first-person perspective, you might never die. You'll always find yourself in a branch where you survived, no matter how unlikely, no matter how improbable. The universe keeps splitting, and you keep experiencing the versions where you exist, forever, unable to ever reach the end because the end only exists in branches you don't experience. But this means that everyone else does die from your perspective. You watch people you love die in your branch, while in their branches, they continue living, experiencing their own apparent immortality, watching you die. Everyone is immortal from their own perspective, but mortal from everyone else's. Reality fragments into isolated islands of consciousness, each experiencing a different infinite timeline, each alone in their immortality. Can you feel the weight of this? The impossibility of knowing which framework is true? You have to live as if one of them is real, but you can't know which one. You have to make choices, form beliefs, create meaning, all while floating in this fundamental uncertainty about the nature of your own existence. Let me pull you back to this moment, this exact moment. You're here, reading or hearing these words, and this moment feels real. More real than anything else. More certain than the past you can't access, or the future you can't see. This moment is your only direct evidence that anything exists at all. And yet this moment is impossible to hold. By the time you became conscious of it, it's already passing, already becoming the past, already sliding into memory. You can't grasp it. You can't stay here. You're always falling forward into the next moment, the next instant, never able to stop, never able to hold on to now. This is the existential crisis at the heart of time. You only have access to the present, but the present won't stay. It's constantly becoming the past, constantly being replaced by a new present that immediately begins to fade. You're like someone trying to stand on a river, feet slipping on water that won't stop flowing, desperately trying to find solid ground in a reality that refuses to be solid. Every spiritual tradition in human history has grappled with this. Buddhism teaches that clinging to the present causes suffering, that you must accept impermanence, accept the flow, let go of the desperate grasping at moments that won't stay. Western philosophy from Heraclitus onward has recognized that you never step in the same river twice, that reality is flux, that permanence is an illusion we impose on a fundamentally changing world. But what if it's the opposite? What if the flow is the illusion and permanence is real? What if you're not standing in a river, but looking at a frozen landscape, experiencing it sequentially because that's how consciousness works, mistaking the sequence of your perception for actual flow in reality? You can't know. You're trapped inside time, inside consciousness, inside an experience that might or might not reflect the true nature of reality. And you have to live anyway. You have to make choices, form relationships, create meaning, all while fundamentally uncertain about whether any of it persists, whether it matters, whether you even persist from moment to moment, or are constantly dying and being reborn as a new person who merely inherits the memories of the previous one. Think about the people you love, your family, your friends, your partner, if you have one. Do they persist through time? When you leave them and come back, are you returning to the same person, or are you meeting a new instantiation of a four-dimensional being at a different temporal coordinate? When you remember a conversation you had with someone yesterday, are you remembering an interaction with a person who still exists in that moment? Or are you remembering a ghost? Someone who's gone, replaced by a new version that exists today? These aren't just abstract questions. They affect how you relate to people, how you understand relationships, how you process loss. If someone you love dies and the block universe is real, they're not gone. They still exist at all their moments, still alive, still conscious, just not in your present, not in your temporal coordinate. You can't reach them, can't touch them, can't share a present moment with them, but they exist. Is that consolation? Or does it make the loss worse, knowing they exist but are forever inaccessible, forever separated from you by an unbridgeable temporal distance? And what about regret? You've made mistakes. Everyone has. Choices you wish you could undo. Words you wish you could take back. Moments you wish had gone differently. If the block universe is real, those moments are permanent. You can't change them, can't fix them, can't undo them. They exist eternally, unchangeable. Your mistakes carved into the structure of space-time forever. But if only the present exists, if the past is gone, then your mistakes are also gone. They don't exist anymore except as memories and consequences. The person who made those mistakes doesn't exist. You're a new person now, shaped by but not identical to the person who erred. You can forgive yourself not because the mistakes don't matter, but because the person who made them no longer exists. Which framework lets you live better? Which creates more meaning, more possibility for growth and change? There's no clear answer. Both offer consolations, and both create burdens. You are floating between frameworks, between worldviews, between fundamentally different understandings of what it means to exist. And you feel it, don't you? This vertigo, this groundlessness, this sense that the solid reality you thought you inhabited has revealed itself to be a stage set, a construction, a story you tell yourself to make sense of an existence that doesn't make sense. This is the moment. This is where you decide what to believe, not because you have evidence, but because you need a framework to live within. You need to choose whether you exist across time or only at this instant. Whether your past and future are real or imagined. Whether you're one continuous being or a series of disconnected moments of consciousness. The choice will shape everything. How you understand death, how you process regret, how you relate to others, how you create meaning in a universe that might be a frozen four-dimensional block, or a constantly branching multiverse, or a single eternal present moment that never actually flows. But before you choose, before you commit to a framework, I need to show you one more thing, one more perspective that will shatter whatever certainty you were building. Because the mystery goes deeper still. We haven't reached the bottom yet. What if I told you that everything we've discussed, every framework, every interpretation, every paradox about the existence of past and future is based on an assumption so fundamental that we never questioned it? An assumption that might be completely wrong? We've been assuming that time is real, that it exists as a feature of the universe, whether as a flowing river or a static dimension or a branching structure. But what if time itself is an illusion? Not just the flow of time, not just the present moment, but time itself. All of it, past, present, future. The entire concept might be something your consciousness creates, not something that exists in the universe independent of observation. This isn't mysticism. This is where cutting-edge physics is pointing. Quantum gravity, the attempt to unify quantum mechanics with general relativity, keeps running into the same problem. Time disappears from the equations. When physicists try to describe the universe at the most fundamental level, at the scale where quantum effects and gravitational effects are both important, time vanishes. It's not in the mathematics. The deepest laws of physics appear to be timeless. There's an equation called the Wheeler-DeWitt equation, the closest thing we have to a theory of quantum gravity. And it describes a universe that doesn't change, that has no time parameter, that simply exists in a timeless state. All possible configurations of the universe exist simultaneously in a superposition, with no past, no future, no evolution, no change, just being, eternal, frozen, timeless being. So where does time come from? If the fundamental reality is timeless, why do you experience time? The answer seems to be entanglement and consciousness. Time might emerge from the way conscious observers interact with quantum systems, from the way information becomes correlated across space, from the way your brain processes and orders experiences. Think about what this means. The universe doesn't have time. You have time. Time is generated by your perception, by your consciousness, by the way your brain organizes information. It's not that you exist in time. Time exists in you. The block universe, presentism, many worlds. All of these frameworks assume time is real and then try to figure out which parts of it exist. But if time itself is emergent, created by consciousness rather than fundamental to reality, then the question of whether past and future exist becomes meaningless. They don't exist in the universe. They exist in your experience of the universe. Let me give you an analogy that might break your mind open. Imagine a movie. Not a digital file, but an old film reel. All the frames exist simultaneously on the reel. There's no flow, no movement, no change in the reel itself. It's a static object. But when you play it through a projector, when you experience it, you perceive movement, change, a story unfolding in time. Now imagine that the universe is like that film reel. All configurations, all states, all possible moments exist simultaneously in a timeless quantum superposition. But consciousness is the projector. Your awareness moves through these states, or selects them, or becomes entangled with them in sequence, creating the experience of time, the perception of flow, the sensation of moments passing. The movie doesn't flow. Your experience of it flows. Reality doesn't change. Your consciousness of it changes, moving through or selecting from the timeless set of all possibilities, generating time as an emergent phenomenon, a feature of observation rather than a feature of the universe. And here's where it gets truly disturbing. If time is generated by consciousness, then before consciousness existed in the universe, there was no time. The Big Bang, the formation of galaxies, the birth of stars, all of this happened, but it didn't happen in time because time didn't exist yet. These events exist in the timeless quantum state of the universe, but they only have a temporal order, only have a sequence. Once consciousness emerges to observe them and create that ordering. This means that in some sense, consciousness creates the past, not just retroactively determines it through quantum observations, but actually generates the concept of past, the ordering of events, the timeline itself. Before consciousness, there were events. There were configurations of matter and energy, but there was no past and future, no before and after, no temporal sequence. You think you evolved from earlier life forms that evolved from simpler organisms that emerged from chemical reactions billions of years ago. But that timeline, that sequence, that history only exists because your conscious brain creates it by ordering timeless configurations into a narrative. The universe doesn't have a history. You give it one. Does this mean you create reality? Not exactly. The configurations exist. The quantum states are real. The universe is real. But the temporal ordering, the story of how one state led to another, the entire concept of causation and time's arrow, that's something consciousness adds. That's your contribution to reality. And if consciousness creates time, then when you die, when your consciousness ends, time ends with you. Not for the universe, which continues generating conscious observers who create their own time, but for you. Your time, your timeline, your past and future. All of it exists only in your consciousness. When that ends, your time ends. But here's the twist that should make you question everything. What if your consciousness doesn't end? What if consciousness itself is fundamental, as basic to the universe as matter and energy? What if consciousness doesn't emerge from brains, but brains emerge from consciousness, as temporary focal points, temporary ways for the universal consciousness to experience itself in limited individual ways? Some interpretations of quantum mechanics, particularly those developed by physicists like John Wheeler and Henry Stapp, suggest that consciousness isn't just an observer of the universe, but a participator, actively involved in creating reality through the act of observation. Wheeler coined the term participatory universe to describe this, a universe that isn't complete without conscious observers to collapse quantum possibilities into definite states. In this view, you're not separate from the universe looking at it from outside. You're the universe looking at itself, creating itself, defining itself through your observations. And if that's true, then asking whether the past and future exist is like asking whether you exist. They exist because you observe them, because you create the temporal framework that gives them meaning. But now, imagine this. What if the universe is cyclical? What if after expanding for trillions of years, it eventually collapses back into a singularity, then bounces back in another Big Bang, creating a new universe, which expands and collapses again, eternally, forever? This is a real cosmological possibility, taken seriously by some physicists. In an eternal cyclical universe, every moment happens infinitely many times. This exact moment you're experiencing right now has happened before, countless times, in previous cycles of the universe. And it will happen again, countless times, in future cycles. Not similar moments. This exact moment, atom for atom, thought for thought, word for word. You have lived this life before, infinitely many times before, and you will live it again, infinitely many times again. Every choice you make, you've made before, and will make again. Every experience you've had before, and will have again, forever. This is the concept of eternal return, imagined by Nietzsche, but grounded in real physics if the universe is truly cyclical. And it means that past and future are the same. The future is just another past. The past is just an earlier future. Time is a circle, and you're trapped on it, experiencing the same moments over and over, eternally. Does that thought fill you with horror or strange comfort? You never lose anything because everything returns. But you never escape anything either. Your suffering returns. Your joy returns. This moment returns. Forever. And if time is emergent, if consciousness creates it, then maybe you're creating this eternal loop. Maybe consciousness generates not just the arrow of time, but the circle of time, ordering timeless quantum configurations into a repeating sequence that plays out infinitely. Or maybe, and this is the final twist, maybe you're not experiencing linear time or cyclical time. Maybe you're experiencing all your moments simultaneously right now, and the sense of sequence, of moving from birth toward death, is the ultimate illusion. Maybe the you reading this is the same you being born, dying, living every moment of your life at once, and consciousness simply creates the illusion of experiencing them one at a time. In quantum mechanics, superposition means a particle exists in all possible states simultaneously until observation collapses it to one state. What if your life exists in superposition? All moments happening at once, and your consciousness is constantly collapsing this superposition, selecting one moment to experience, then another, creating the illusion of flow, of sequence, of time passing. You're not moving through time. You're selecting from your timeless, complete life, moment by moment, creating a path through the static structure of all your possible experiences. And the path feels linear, feels like progress, feels like you're going somewhere. But really you're just wandering through a space that already contains everything you've ever been and ever will be. The past exists because you're selecting it right now, collapsing your life's quantum superposition to include that memory. The future exists because you're selecting it right now, collapsing your life's superposition to include that anticipation. Past and future are both present, both happening now, both part of the timeless totality of you that exists all at once. This is what the deepest physics suggests, not a block universe, not a flowing present, not even a branching multiverse, but a timeless quantum state containing all possibilities, all moments, all configurations, and consciousness moving through or selecting from this timeless state, creating the experience of time, the sensation of flow, the narrative of a life unfolding from beginning to end. You are not in time. Time is in you. And when you truly understand this, when you really feel it, something shifts. The fear of death softens because death is just another moment in your timeless totality, no more final than any other moment. The regret of past mistakes eases because those moments exist simultaneously with your current wisdom, both part of the complete you. The anxiety about the future dissolves because the future is already present in your quantum superposition, already part of you, already selected in some sense. What if this very moment, this realization you're having right now, is déjà vu from a previous cycle of the universe? What if you've understood this before, forgotten it, and understood it again, infinitely many times, in an eternal loop of awakening and forgetting. What if time is folding in on itself, and you're caught in the wrinkle, experiencing the same life from multiple angles simultaneously? Your past self and future self and present self, all the same consciousness, observing itself from different positions in the timeless structure? The answer to whether past and future exist is both simpler and stranger than any framework we've discussed. They exist as possibilities in a timeless quantum state. They become real through your observation, through your consciousness selecting and ordering them. They are and aren't real simultaneously until you make them real by experiencing them. You are the creator of your own time, the author of your own past and future, the consciousness that transforms timeless quantum possibilities into the lived experience of a life unfolding moment by moment. The universe gives you the raw material, infinite possibilities, timeless configurations, quantum superpositions, but you give it time, you give it sequence, you give it meaning. And that makes you, in a very real sense, the most powerful thing in existence. Not because you control the universe, but because you create the very dimension in which control, choice, causation, and meaning can exist. Without consciousness, without you, there is no time. There is no story. There is only the timeless, unchanging quantum state of all possibilities existing at once. With you, there is time. There is narrative. There is past and future, memory and anticipation, birth and death, beginning and end. You create all of it simply by being conscious, simply by observing, simply by existing. The past and future exist because you exist, and you exist because you create the time in which existence can unfold. So here you are, still breathing, still conscious, still experiencing this moment that may or may not be the only moment that truly exists. You've traveled with me through block universes and branching multiverses, through quantum superpositions and timeless equations, through the physics of relativity and the mystery of consciousness. And after all of that, after confronting every framework and paradox and possibility, you're left with the same question you started with. Do the past and future exist? But you're not the same person who started this journey. Something has shifted. You can't unknow what you now know. You can't return to the simple certainty that time flows, that the past is gone, that the future hasn't happened yet. That innocent confidence in the reality of the present moment has been shattered, and in its place is something stranger, deeper, more beautiful, and more terrifying. You understand now that your experience of time might be the universe's most elaborate magic trick, that every moment you've lived might still exist, frozen eternally in the four-dimensional structure of space-time, or might have vanished completely, leaving only echoes and memories. That every moment you will live might already exist, waiting for your consciousness to arrive, or might not exist at all until quantum possibilities collapse into definite reality. You understand that you might be one person moving through time, or countless versions scattered across branching universes, or a timeless quantum superposition experiencing itself sequentially, or a temporary focal point of universal consciousness creating time itself through the act of observation. All of these are possible. None of them can be definitively proven or disproven from your limited perspective inside time, inside consciousness, inside this mysterious experience of being alive. And that uncertainty, that fundamental groundlessness about the nature of your own existence, is not a failure of science or philosophy. It's a feature of reality itself. The universe is genuinely mysterious at this level. Not mysterious in the sense that we just haven't figured it out yet, but mysterious in the sense that mystery might be fundamental, that some questions might not have definitive answers, that reality at its deepest level might be irreducibly ambiguous. Think about how far we've come as a species in understanding reality. A few hundred years ago, we thought the Earth was the center of the universe, that stars were lights embedded in a celestial sphere. That time was absolute and universal. We were wrong about almost everything, and in the process of discovering how wrong we were, we built technologies that transformed civilization, developed mathematics that revealed hidden structures in nature, created frameworks for understanding reality that would have seemed like magic to our ancestors. But with each answer, we uncovered deeper questions. We discovered atoms, then found their mostly empty space. We discovered that empty space, then found it's seething with quantum fluctuations. We discovered the laws of physics, then found they break down at singularities and the Big Bang. We discovered spacetime, then found it might emerge from something more fundamental. Every answer is a doorway to stranger questions. And the question of time, the question of whether past and future exist, might be the strangest of all. Because it's not just a question about the universe out there. It's a question about you, about your existence, your consciousness, your experience of being alive. You can't observe time from outside the way you might observe a distant galaxy. You're inside time, or time is inside you, or both. And that makes the question uniquely difficult and uniquely personal. You will leave this video, return to your daily life, make plans for tomorrow, remember yesterday, experience the flow of time as real and undeniable. And that's okay. That's necessary. You can't function in a state of pure uncertainty. You need to act as if time is real, as if your choices matter, as if the future is open and the past is fixed. The truth of reality doesn't change the necessity of living, but somewhere in the back of your mind, a seed has been planted. A question that won't fully go away. A sense that the reality you experience is a constructed interface, a useful fiction, a story told by consciousness to make sense of something far stranger. And occasionally, in quiet moments, when you're watching a sunset or lying awake at night or experiencing something profound, that question will resurface, and you'll feel again this vertigo, this groundlessness, this beautiful terror of not knowing what you are, or when you are, or if past and future versions of you exist in some dimension you can't access. That feeling is the price of understanding, of looking deeply at reality instead of accepting comfortable illusions, of taking seriously what physics tells us about the nature of time and existence. It's uncomfortable, it's unsettling, but it's also liberating in a strange way. Because if you don't know whether the future exists, then maybe it's more open than you thought. Maybe your choices matter more, not less, because they're creating something genuinely new, rather than just discovering what was always there. Or maybe your choices matter more because they're eternal, carved forever into the structure of space-time, never to be undone or forgotten. If you don't know whether the past exists, then maybe you're freer from it than you thought. Maybe those mistakes and regrets are truly gone, vanished completely, leaving only their effects, but not their reality. Or maybe they're still real, still existing, and that means the good moments are still real too, still happening, eternal and unchanging in their perfection. Either way, the uncertainty creates space for meaning, for choice, for the possibility that your life matters in ways you can't fully understand. You're not just a deterministic machine following predetermined paths. You're not just a random collection of particles briefly organized into consciousness. You're something stranger, something that participates in creating time itself, that collapses quantum possibilities into definite reality, that gives order and meaning to a universe that might be fundamentally orderless and meaningless without consciousness to observe it. You are powerful in ways you never imagined, not because you control the universe, but because you create the very framework in which control, time, causation, and meaning can exist. Without consciousness like yours, there might be no past or future, no timeline, no history, no narrative, just timeless quantum configurations existing in superposition, waiting for observation to give them sequence and significance. That's not a small thing. That's not insignificant. You are the universe waking up to itself, creating time so it can experience change, creating memory so it can have history, creating anticipation so it can have possibility. You are reality looking at itself and asking whether it exists, and in the asking, making existence meaningful. So what do you do with this understanding? How do you live in the face of such profound uncertainty about the nature of time and existence? Maybe you live more fully in each moment, knowing it might be eternal or might be all that exists. Maybe you treat each encounter with someone you love as if it will last forever in the structure of space-time, or as if it's the only time that truly exists. Maybe you make choices as if they create the future rather than discovering it, or as if they sculpt your eternal four-dimensional self into something beautiful. Maybe you hold regrets more lightly, knowing the past might be gone or might be unchangeable. Maybe you hold hope more seriously, knowing the future might already exist or might be genuinely open. Maybe you embrace the mystery instead of demanding certainty, living with the question instead of forcing an answer. The universe doesn't owe you clarity. It doesn't owe you comfort. It doesn't owe you a reality that makes sense to your evolutionarily programmed intuitions. But it has given you consciousness, the ability to wonder, the capacity to ask these questions and be transformed by them even when you can't answer them. And maybe that's enough. Maybe the question is more important than the answer. Maybe living in the mystery, embracing the uncertainty, holding multiple possibilities simultaneously without collapsing into dogmatic certainty about which is true, maybe that's the most honest, most courageous way to exist. Somewhere in the multiverse, if it exists, there's a version of you who never questioned time, who lived and died in comfortable certainty that past is gone and future hasn't happened yet. That version is not you. You chose to look deeper. You chose to confront the mystery. You chose to let your reality be complicated, uncertain, paradoxical. And in making that choice, you became something more than you were. Not more knowledgeable necessarily. You ended with more questions than answers, but more awake, more aware, more willing to exist in the strange, uncertain, beautiful reality that actually is rather than the simple, certain, comfortable reality you wish existed. Here's my final question for you, the one I want you to carry with you. If you discovered tomorrow that the block universe is real, that your entire life exists eternally in the four-dimensional structure of space-time, unchangeable and permanent, would you live differently today? Would you make different choices, treat people differently, pursue different dreams? Or if you discovered that only this present moment exists, that past and future are pure illusion, that you're born and die in each instant, would that change how you live right now? Think about it. Really think about it. Because your answer reveals what you actually believe beneath all the uncertainty, beneath all the frameworks and paradoxes. It reveals what matters to you independent of metaphysics, what gives your life meaning regardless of whether time is real or illusory. Maybe that's the real answer to whether past and future exist. They exist in the sense that they matter to you. They shape your choices, your relationships, your sense of meaning and purpose, and perhaps that's the only kind of existence that truly matters. Not whether they exist in some objective physical sense, but whether they exist in your experience, in your consciousness, in the story you tell yourself about what it means to be alive. The edge of the universe may be unreachable, hidden beyond horizons we can never cross, expanding faster than light can travel. But your curiosity isn't limited by distance or speed. Your capacity for wonder isn't bounded by the cosmic horizon. Your ability to ask these questions, to be transformed by mystery, to create meaning in an uncertain universe, that's infinite. If your mind is still spinning, if you're lying awake tonight thinking about which version of you exists and where and when, if you're looking at the people you love and wondering if they persist through time or are constantly being replaced by new versions, good. Stay curious. Keep questioning. Let the mystery change you. Comment below with your theory or your fear or your hope about what exists beyond this present moment. Not because I have answers to give you, but because articulating the question, sharing the uncertainty, knowing others are grappling with the same existential mysteries, that creates connection across whatever structure time actually has. And maybe that's what matters most. Not whether past and future exist in some abstract physical sense, but that you exist right now, conscious and wondering and beautifully uncertain, creating time and meaning and significance simply by being aware, simply by asking, simply by existing in this strange, mysterious, impossible moment that might be eternal or might be all there is. The universe is under no obligation to make sense to you, but you are under an obligation to yourself, to wonder, to question, to live fully in the uncertainty, to create meaning even when reality refuses to give you answers. Do the past and future exist? I don't know. You don't know. The smartest physicists alive don't know. But we're here now, together in this moment, asking the question, transformed by the mystery. And perhaps that's the only existence that truly matters.